and welcome to asiCast number 154. This is actually my second time participating in an asiCast. The first was way back in 2016 when the asiCast had reached a mere number 36. On that occasion, I talked about how hybrid measurement, facilitated by data science and new partnerships, were becoming central to Kantar's offer. This time, I have the opportunity to ask the questions and do the interrogating. And with a pleasing synchronicity, the subject matter is how advanced mathematics and data science applied to hybrid data sources are being adopted by the TV and video industry in Finland. One of the big challenges that we've been grappling with in recent years is how to measure video on demand advertising and deduplicate with broadcast linear campaigns. There's not yet industry-wide consensus on exactly the right way to do it, so we have differing approaches being used in different countries. Several countries are implementing variations on the C-flight approach. We have VOS in Australia, etc., etc. Now, the approach being taken in Finland is another new methodological variant, which I'm sure we'll be hearing more about shortly. And interestingly, the project has not been overseen by the industry audience measurement currency service FinPanel, although it integrates FinPanel data. In this case, the new service involves a cooperation between the two biggest commercial broadcasters in Finland, who, under normal circumstances, are arch competitors. Getting to the point of launch has involved several stakeholders, so unusually for an asiCast, we have a panel, or should I say a cast of contributors. And to kick things off, can I ask each of you to introduce yourself and briefly your role in the project? So who's going to kick off? Maybe you, Anna.
I can start. Yes, I'm Anna Lujanin. I'm the Executive Director for Screenforce Finland. So we're the trade body for commercial TV in Finland, and all the broadcasters are Screenforce members.
Great. And Saku?
Yes, my name is Saku Sahramies. I'm working for MTV commercial broadcaster in Finland. Or in fact, I'm working in a team which is consistent of Finns working in MTV and Swedes working in TV4 in Sweden. And our teams and my main responsibility is to future-proof of our advertising products. For example, a data-driven project like this. And I'm part of the task force of this project, and I think my role is to bring a bit of expertise from the business side and from the ad tech related issues.
Great, thank you. Next we have Kati.
Hi everyone, my name is Kati Alioki and I work for Sanoma Media Finland. Sanoma is a leading Finnish cross-media company for those who don't know us. I work in B2B sales as a head of insight, and one of the areas my teams are responsible for are our audience measurements project like today what we are discussing. So in this project, like Saku, I've been part of the task force from Sanoma's side, along with my team's TV specialist, Tina. So presenting Sanoma here.
Great, thank you. And Renata?
Hello, everyone. My name is Renata Jularikova. I'm one of the founding partners of Pure Cross Media, which is a consultancy in the area of cross-media measurement. We've set it up, this consultancy, together with my colleague, Pushka Kulkarni. And our role in this project was help and assist Screenforce and their members to conduct the overall tender process and potentially to help them to run the POCs. Thank you.
And last but by no means least, Andrea.
Okay. Hi, I'm Andrea Mezzasalma. I'm the founder and CEO of Data Bridges, based in Milan, but international at heart. We provide the modeling solutions and the technical services that bring all this stuff together and makes this thing real.
Great. Well, thank you all, and thanks for joining us today. Let's start with how the project came together. Maybe, Kati, you can talk us through that.
Sure. Well, firstly, I would have to say that it's been a long and winding road. I argue that because I would argue that we laid the foundation of this measurement already 6-7 years ago, when we introduced or started building actually total TV measurement in Finland. Total TV measurement in Finland combines linear and video viewing on a content level, and this service is run by FinPanel. When we launched the total TV measurement, I think it was 2018, we knew already then that we wanted to add advertising at some point. And so I think maybe 2020, we had our first meetings with this group, or around, there were more people involved obviously than us also, where we started discussing and progressing the new measurement initiative, or at least we started discussing how to include advertising. And between then and now, there's been a tender process, countless teams meetings, lots of blood, sweat and tears, but also lots of laughter and good times too.
And Saku, perhaps you can talk a little bit about the primary objectives for the project.
Yes, naturally, the project has from the very beginning commercial objectives. And first of all, I think we as broadcasters wanted to give our clients, agencies and advertisers a holistic view on the campaign metrics on their campaigns running on TV channels and broadcaster what. And well, we are, as a broadcaster, are of course super interested in that as well. In fact, there has been various ways in the market by different stakeholders to predict and even run some analysis of a joint reach of a TV campaigns and broadcaster what. But we wanted to bring a very trustworthy, accurate and transparent method for that for the market. And equally as importantly, or if not more importantly, our objective was to create a total TV currency to the market, and to be more specific, a trading currency. This will give an opportunity for broadcasters to sell total TV products with unified trading currency. So what does it mean? So the actual TV break ratings will not be affected by this new measurement, but the new thing that is actually the trading currency is that the broadcaster what can be traded instead of impressions by contacts or impacts, however you want to say it, and joined with the TV channels. Of course, if an individual broadcaster wants to sell them like that. And of course, overall, we wanted to make our product offering stronger against our competition.
Okay, so it's the objective is as a trading currency. So I wonder why it's Screenforce that's leading and coordinating the project rather than FinPanel, the existing currency provider. Maybe Anna, you can talk a bit about that.
I think this is a short, quite simple answer. FinPanel is not a JIC. We don't actually have a JIC for this, which might be a misconception. So the broadcasters have to lead development themselves. And as a trade body, this sits quite well with Screenforce being a neutral service and resource in that sense. FinPanel is a panel measurement provider, a vendor, and in this case, an important partner and panel data provider. So it wasn't within their kind of scope or role to lead this project.
So who is involved in the governance of the project?
That's yet to be named. We're at quite an early stage. So you're the first to kind of hear any kind of presentation. So this is still in process. And then once we have somebody, an entity we can name, then that will be announced. But early days, and there will be a governing body.
And is that the first step towards a Finnish JIC?
No comment.
Right. Okay.
Yet to be seen. Yet to be.
Okay. Well, watch this space closely.
Yes, please.
And has the collaboration between the two largest broadcasters, has that presented any problems from a competition standpoint?
I think that's where the Screenforce comes in. I mean, we're a neutral platform for any development projects in the market, and we also have Warner Bros. Discovery and Disney on our membership and on our board, who are very aware of what's going on and have also kind of committed to this project. So kind of green lighted this project. So the whole market is on board in that sense. And I think because we're quite used to working with these guys and the competitors, it's not a problem. We have a common goal in that sense.
And as for competition law, of course, we have restrictions what we can talk about. So it's providing this measurement. So everything commercial is out of scope of our discussions.
Okay, well, that's helpful. So let's talk a little bit about the tender process and how was the supplier selected? Renata, can you talk about that?
Sure. So first, we have to say that prior to the publication or issue of the RFP, we've done actually a long preparation process. The main objective of this long preparation process was, I would say, twofold. First was to obtain learnings from other markets. As we know, as you mentioned, Richard, there are other similar type of projects run in other markets. So we wanted to obtain those learnings. And second objective was to scope and to potentially, draft and develop the RFP itself. And so after the long prep work, the Pure Cross Media, together with my colleagues Pushka Kulkarni and Olga Shapran, we drafted the request for proposal. We issued it, and it consisted actually of 3 modules, or 3 lots, as we call them. The first one was delivery of the BVOD advertising measurement data. The measurement data from the broadcaster video on demand. Second, a lot was actually a total TV ad measurement data set delivery, which means potentially solutions unifying, harmonizing, and integrating BVOD ad data together with the TV ad data provided by FinPanel, as already mentioned. And I have to say, through the whole process of tender, we kept very open-minded approach in regards to potential solutions, because we knew we could have solutions based on a panel with a certain limited scope of data modeling, but as well we could have solutions based on utilizing the actual data available with modeling of data in the heart of the solution. So that's why actually Pure Cross Media suggested to invite not just the usual suspects into the tender, as we call them, so the TAM or VAM providers, but as well data sort of modeling and data integration companies, or companies specializing in data integration and data modeling, such as data breeders, which happened. And what we've done, we allowed the bidders to bid for different lots. So, we obtained actually together 18 different proposals from 11 different bidders. So quite a big variety. And after the first round of evaluation process, we actually selected the finalists for each lot and eventually decided to run POCs. So, yeah.
And your chosen supplier was Data Breeders. And I understand that since that selection, that you've undertaken 2 proof of concept projects. And so, what was the purpose of these?
You're right, Richard. There was a decision to run 2 proof of concepts. I'll start with the main one, which was, as you know, the large scale sort of POC with data breeders. And the main objective of this proof of concept or this test was to verify their solution and to potentially identify any, let's say, challenges or bottlenecks, before we wanted to proceed further. But also we consider the data breeder solution as very innovative, very pioneering, with the data modeling at the heart. And that's why we wanted to make sure that, this solution can be potentially actually, implemented. And one of the actually important points to stress is as well part of the POC, which was the initial part, was to verify and to actually validate the quality of the input data. Because as you know, this solution is based on the existing data sources and existing data utilized as input data. So that's why. The second POC, I would say just very briefly, because there were no, let's say, off-shelf solutions available, we have decided to test two approaches, but the second POC or second test was a very light test with limited scope, and it was just done in addition to the sort of main POC conducted by data breeders.
So a rigorous process. When will the service be launched onto the market, and what needs to happen between now and then? Maybe Kati, you can talk about that.
Sure, thanks, Richard. Well, obviously, we are working very hard as we speak, and to get everything done in time. We have said to the Finnish market that we will be launching this measurement by Q2, not given any specific date, but during the second quarter of this year. And it's actually, at this moment, it looks very promising that we will be on time. There's no big hurdles or roadblocks that we've encountered so far. But obviously, there are still a lot of work to be done before we can launch the service, and there are issues that are more like technicalities, like data issues. And we have our dailies and we have our weeklies with data breeders, and we are independently, Sanoma independently, MTV, going through all the data issues with data breeders. And so far, don't expect any roadblocks from there. Then I think we touched upon shortly the subject of the governance model, which we said that it's not yet solved, but we've given it a lot of thought to it, and we need to still finalize the process before we can say how this measurement will be governed, or by who.
So still some work to do, but on track for Q2 launch. It's the running has been made very much by the broadcasters and the trade body. How have the agencies and advertisers reacted to the prospect of this new data? Saku, maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, I think the agencies have been aware of that we are developing such a measurement for total TV advertising. So we informed them back in like a couple of years ago that we are exploring the opportunities in this area, and we just kind of launched to the agencies just a while ago to the news that we are bringing this measurement to the market. And I think overall the reception of this new measurement has been very positive, and I feel that they kind of they understood the approach what we are aiming for. And I think what they are lacking, that they are really curious to see actual campaign results of their campaigns, since they can't. You need to get to the data, hands-on data, in order to see what's happening. And but I think overall there has been a really good questions about the measurement, very pragmatic ones. Hey, what about the programmatic trading? What are the exact target groups that can be analyzed? What kind of a post-analysis tool there will be provided for us? Does it cost anything? This kind of very pragmatic questions. But it's also worth to mention that it's the adoption of a new total TV metrics is not easy for everyone, for agencies or advertisers. For example, those who've been audited for years by auditing companies. So they are KPIs kind of built on a kind of a traditional TV audience measurement where you're getting at, and then you need to adopt new ones. So for someone, it's not as easy to take into use, but for some, it could be very easy to take to use. And I think the most frequent question is when this is up and running, the timing question. That's from the market, the most frequent question.
Okay, so let's move on to talk a little bit about the methodology. We won't be going too deep on this occasion in the time available, but Andrea, you've been unusually quiet up until now, so I'm going to talk. What data? We heard a little bit about the data that's being input into the system, but maybe you can talk a bit more about what data have been made available as inputs into the new service, and I think something that will always interest and concern people about what privacy constraints might have affected the way you've gone about constructing the methodology.
Sure. All right, so let's start from the ingredients. There are mainly 3 ingredients or 3 categories of ingredients into this recipe. The first is the ad server data collected from each broadcasters. And their registration profiles. This is important. And the second ingredient is the single source. So by single source, we mean a panel built around the Fin panel that includes both linear viewing and registration data and ad server data. So within the Fin panel, though obviously it is a panel, and not a gigantic one, but we have very key information. We have within that panel, at the same time, we know the impressions that have been served and who they were registered to, and we know who was watching really at the time on the TV screen, thanks to the handset of the people meters. But we also know for personal devices who is the main owner, the main user of the devices where a certain impression has been served. This is really, really important. And the third ingredient, which is very relevant, is the spot gate system. Basically, in Finland, I understand that there is a very advanced system to code the spots, all linear TV and progressively BVOD spots, coding with unified codes and classified in a comprehensive way.
So the information that you're integrating, has that been affected in any way by concerns, constraints, and privacy?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, privacy, let me say, obviously is paramount for us, and it must be paramount. Ad server data, since they have a persistent code, are to all intent personal data. This is the main interpretation. They're personal data, so they need to be protected. The way we protect the data is very simple. We keep them segregated. So with the exception of the matching on the Fin panel consented homes, all the other data are always kept segregated. So we don't take the data from broadcaster A and we mix them with broadcaster B, or we fuse them, or we do any trick like that. They are simply kept completely separated. At the moment when a request comes from the dashboard, the request is processed. The individual systems of each broadcasters separately produced all the reports that we need, and the modeling engine brings everything together with also the data calculated from the single source and produces the outcome, the post-evaluation that we need. Okay.
Saku, could you talk a bit about the outputs that the new service is producing?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, we turned our impressions, our BVOD impressions into contacts, profiled contacts. And this is done actually in a 10-year age brackets by gender. So we got this kind of a granularity of data. And this is, of course, a key element when we are talking about unified total TV trading, that we get into very profiled age brackets. By this, we can get a kind of a combined campaign, total TV GRPs or TRPs, weekly GRPs, etc. And then, of course, secondly, we have a combined total TV reach, within those age brackets, covering linear TV and the broadcast to VOD. And we get reads, 1+ read, the net reads, 2+ reads, 3+ reads unified. So it's just like in TV campaigns is the outputs, but also having to be VOD players within it.
Okay, great. So some level of demographic analysis. Well, Andrea, you've been involved in similar projects in some other countries, Germany, Italy. And is this really sea flight by another name?
I smile. Well, obviously, we are proud to be doing sea flight in Germany, Italy, and Ireland. And there are similarities in scope. Certainly, all these systems, like others that you mentioned in the past, have similar goals. They want to bring together census data and other data in a sensible way to provide post-evaluations, cross-platform post-evaluations. However, each initiative is different. Even, sea flight in Germany, Italy, and Ireland are different from each other, and all of them are different than what is done in the UK. And this is because we have different data at the start, and we have different panel availability, and we have different privacy regulations. Certain things can be done in the UK, but not in continental Europe, despite all of us still being under the GDPR. But the local interpretations are different.
And
now,
is there anything you would pick out from the Finnish survey service that you would say makes it that you're particularly proud of, that makes it superior?
Well, yes, it makes us proud, but it's not something that we did. Actually, it is something that we found. So we are proud of having exploited, the situation that we found. We found a very good building ground, a very solid building ground. Yes. So we found, first of all, we could build a single source, as we said, around FinPanel. We could use that information. This is of paramount importance because all the steps of the modeling engine, all of them are really guided by what we see on the single source. So we transform registration level impacts into individual level profile impacts. We transform registration level reach and frequency into individual level reach and frequency, always using what we find, what we see on the single source, or for that specific campaign, or in other cases from a larger set of campaigns, deriving more general rules, but always with a single source at the heart. So I think that this is something really important. Spotgate is also important. So in the end, this means that in a matter of a minute, we can do all the calculations, and in an easy way, we can produce post-evaluations, from a very complex system like this. And we think that this is very reliable.
Great. Okay. So we heard earlier a little bit about the data that's going to be output, but how will users be able to access the data? What software will it be available in? Kati, can you expand on that?
Sure. As Renata mentioned before, she talked about our RFP process. And so as an important part of our RFP was finding the proper tool for accessing the data. And we've had a few options that we looked into, and actually we decided to go with the solution that Data Breeders offered us. And at the first stage, the tool will be, we could call it a post-analysis or reporting dashboard. I think that's the way we call it at the moment. And that will be made available for media agencies. It will be an independent solution, and you only run the TTVAM data in it. And so with the help of a Spotgate code, as mentioned many times already during this podcast, you'll be able to get the campaign's total contacts and reach and frequency from the dashboard. So, and then when it comes to, I'm sure you might ask already, so I answer before you ask. But what about campaign planning and what about optimizing? So we are looking into that in the near future, and also we are getting feedback from the agencies. So we call this the stage 1.0.
Okay. And thinking about television nowadays, and it has a wider and more complex definition. So I was wondering whether you've had any consideration about inviting YouTube, Facebook, maybe even Netflix, if it's going to be carrying ads. Were they approached to participate in the service?
I'll answer that. Well, I feel like you're giving me a trick question, because television, as the kind of, I belong to the Global TV Group, and as we define it, wouldn't include YouTube and Facebook. TV, excels in premium and sound in the environment for advertising. It's measured and audited by trustworthy third parties, framed by strict legal rules, and its content is highly professional. And that's kind of the true DNA of television, even as it transforms digitally to operate on new online platforms. And that can't always be said for the social media platforms and the way they're measured. And YouTube, Facebook, Netflix have yet to become official part of the FinPanel TV measurement in Finland, but that that could change. But the new measurement will, I think, when the governing entity exists, we'll welcome any companies that meet these prerequisites and adhere to the same gold standards and trust and transparency that the TV industry does. And these principles will be decided and governed by this mentioned separate entity. I think this new measurement, as it produces total TV campaigns and unified campaign reach across, to 8 advertisers and media agencies, we're talking about kind of a different product and environment. And it's, for example, the classic problem of what is a view in regards to these other players, as TV campaigns are always, in our market at least, 100% viewable, full screen and sound on. So you really can't compare. And as the rules are different, it's slightly unfair to compare these medias.
Well, I'm conscious I've opened up a very big topic.
I know, it's a long answer because it's
devote another podcast to debating that. But thank you very much for your answer.
I think just to make clear, though, that as Screenforce, we represent the TV industry, and we can only really take responsibility for our own measurement. And that's really at the core of what this project has aimed to do, take responsibility of our cross-platform solutions.
Yes, I guess for the service to occupy a position in the market, though, it may come under say pressure, but encouragement to broaden out to be as all-encompassing as possible. But again, we will wait and see what happens. Maybe perhaps we can just round things off by you're launching in Q2. You're getting feedback from agencies. There's a lot of hard work going into what you're producing now. But do you have a goal or roadmap for developing the service in the future? What are the priorities there, would you say, Saku?
Yes, we have of course plenty of ideas, and it's whether they are like a really official roadmap. That's another question. But well, first of all, I think the service is never ready. It's 1.0, and then it's further develops, and it's we do hope that as Anna was kind of contemplating just before, that some of the new companies would join the measurement, of course, complying with the gold standards that we have with our measurements. And it's the planning tools is of course a question that we are thinking of. Is it a part of this service? Would there be commercial offerings from the market, like from some of the software providers for the planning and optimizing? That's something we do. The programmatic part is something that, hey, if someone is trading the video in broadcaster board programmatically, can we measure them at the same time? How should be the spot codes be seen in the ad server data if it's programmatic, and etc. So there is many potential ways to improve in those. And I think finally the one thing I hope we can take a look at the near future, it's when we as TV companies, I can see a future, and it's just MTV talking here, that we could start replacing linear TV channels ads with the digital ads. So-called dynamic ad insertion, DAI, however you would call it. And it's in Finland, the biggest potential, it's within the HBB TV technology. So we could, which has very high penetration, we can utilize it to make the ad breaks more personal. And that, of course, gives a development needs for the measurement, not only for this total TV advertising measurement, but also for the TV audience measurement, for the spot things. So I think it's kind of would be a hybrid work between the TV audience measurement and us in a total TV advertising measurement. So this, I hope it would be a natural step, and it's of course dependent on how we as a market go forward.
Great, thank you. Well, lots of potential to build on the foundations that you're putting in place. I think that's a good point for us to end this particular conversation. Thank you all so much for participating in this asiCast, and we look forward to seeing the fruits of your labours out in the market in Finland in Q2. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard.
Richard, thank you, everyone.